to start with Bootstrap, we need to go to the Bootstrap documentation. So to get to Bootstrap documentation, the website is getbootstrap.com/docs. So when you get there, on the documentation here at the top, you will see introduction or get started. So the first thing we are going to be looking at now is how to install Bootstrap and use it to work on your HTML. So there are so many ways you can install Bootstrap. The first method is by using the CDN. So this is the CDN. I can copy the CSS CDN and take it to my Visual Studio Code, my IDE, and paste it. Now, if I run my server now, you are going to see that this is going to come up with a default Bootstrap design. Okay, if you look at this, let me see how I am going to minimize this screen. Let's see if I can make it a little bit like this. Okay, and also minimize this a little bit to have it this way. So I can go up and down this. Okay, so let me remove the CDN again so that you see how it will look by default. So look at how this will look ordinarily as an ordinary HTML, but immediately I added the CDN, the Bootstrap CDN, is going to change to this. Okay, so this is one method of running our Bootstrap CSS. Now, to bring in the JavaScript, most especially it is important that you place your JavaScript just below the body ending tag. So because of it, let's go to the getbootstrap.com and go to this JS, the JavaScript CDN, and we can copy this one and we come here and place it there. So we are good to go. Now in my next tutorial, I'll be showing you how to bring Bootstrap to your to the local environment, and as well how to use yarn or npm to install Bootstrap. Now, Bootstrap comes with classes. So what most of the components that you are likely to design in any website has been done by Bootstrap. So what you are required to do is to know the classes of these components and then use them to work. Okay? So one of the things that you must make sure is that you must make sure that you have this meta tag, because Bootstrap by default is responsive. So it is mobile first. So which means that most of the designs has been done to fit into mobile, tablets, and desktop. So because of that, make sure that you have this tag. And of course, you know what this tag does. It helps you to have a responsive website. And you can see where it said initial scale is 1. That's the zoom level. And the device width is going to take this thing. Okay, so let's start with Bootstrap components. Now let's look at the components. There are so many things that we can look at here, but we are going to be starting with the contents, or let's look at the contents. I am not okay. Let's look at other ones. I think we should be looking at the layout for now. I will be We are not going to customize it now, so we're going to be looking at the layout. So I am going to jump the breakpoints, but breakpoints are just the different breakpoints that you are going to meet. This is the mobile view on the Bootstrap website, and you can see if you click here, you see the menu options, and there are the designs look a little bit different. And as you are increasing this, you can see it remains the same until it reaches at a particular size. You can see that there is a particular size where it changed this design here. You no longer see the toggler. You can see that the design. So these are the breakpoints. Okay, if we continue, you can see that this place was not displaying the side menu, but immediately we moved to that breakpoint. Out of that breakpoint, you can then see these ones. So this is because of these breakpoints. So just know that these are the breakpoints that they are talking about. Okay, so the first thing that we'll be looking at in this place will be what we call Bootstrap containers. Okay, so now let us see the containers. Oh, sorry, before I begin with container, let us talk about the Bootstrap theme colors. So let's talk about theme colors. Theme colors. Now, to get the theme colors, so these are the default colors in Bootstrap. So let's get on with that. If we are typing a text, we can have it with a class. Okay, let's have a paragraph, or rather an H2. And this H2, if we say anything there, text here, and we look at it from this place, you can see text here, and this is bold because it is an hashtag element. Now let us put up a class there. So to work with colors, we can set the class as text because we want to work with text, and then the color for blue will be primary. So once we do that, the color of this is going to change to blue. So you no longer need to write any of this because these classes has been styled. So you are using the classes so that you are working with the CSS that Bootstrap already has for you. So we have so many colors. So I'm going to be mentioning some of those colors. We have primary, which is uh, which is equal to blue. Then we have secondary. Sorry, I made a mistake on my spelling. Secondary. We have danger, which is red. Secondary is gray. Danger, which is red. Warning, which is yellow. And success, which is green. Info, which is light blue, and muted, which is a little bit grayish. So let's look at them. Let's create another H2 dot, just to make a class, dot text dash secondary. Hit enter. So this is Emmet. So Emmet already knows what we want. So we can say text here. Let's see that. So you can see what secondary is, and you can see the color is grayish. Let's copy this, copy, and let us have some of them like this. Now, instead of having secondary here, let us have danger. So it's going to take red, warning. So it's going to take yellow, info. So it's going to take light blue, and success. So it's going to take green. Finally, muted. So it's going to take gray. All right, so let's see that. Now look at this. You can see that primary is blue, secondary is gray, danger is red, warning is yellow, info is light blue, success is green, and muted is also a light gray. So these are the default themes. So we can still work with the background. Now, how do we add a background to our Bootstrap elements? So now to do that, I don't have to do this. To do that, what we are going to do is we can add a class to them. So instead of having class text primary, if we want to add BG to it, background to it, we can just give a little space here, and we can say BG dash. So if we want it to be a dark uh, background, it's going to be take dark. So I forgot to tell you that black is dark. Okay. So we also have light, which is for light colored text. So if you take a look at this place, you will see that it has taken a dark background. Let us have another one, BG dash danger, so that you get to understand all these things. So look at it. We have red background. I am hopeful that you will know other ones. BG, let us have primary, and BG dash, sorry, dash secondary, and it takes this, and so on. So these are the ways you can work with colors. Now, take for instance, if I want this text to be white, what should I do? So what I will do is I'll go to the primary and change it to text light. And it's going to take the light color. So we also have text white. Okay. So we also have text white, which is a little bit, it has more contrast than the text light. Okay, so we can still use the light for now. Okay, now we can also work with padding and margin for each of these things. So let's take, for instance, on this dark background, you can see how it looked here. You can see how it looked here. So let us have uh, um, some padding and margin to it. Excuse me, let me take this call. All right, let's continue. Now, let us have some padding and margin. So to have a padding on this, we use P for padding. So padding for generally, and then dash the amount of padding we want to add to it. So let's add padding with of 3. You can see that this has taken a bigger size for that padding. We can also add some margin, which we use M for margin, and then dash the size of margin we want to give to it. So let's say we want to give 3 margin of 3, and you can see that it has taken a margin of 3. We can also control the places or the angles at which we add the margin and the padding. So to do that, if we want the margin to run um, from vertical axis, that is top to down, then it is PY, because you know if you are plotting a graph, you have the Y axis at the vertical layout, and then the X axis at the horizontal. So because of it, we use PY and PX. So PY is going to have the margin at the top and bottom, while PX is going to have the padding from left to right. Okay, so if we want the padding to only appear from top to down, we add it like this. If we want it to have from this left to right, okay, so we can still have it like this, px for the x-axis, that is left to right. So we can have a different distance. And if you look at this, you will see what it looks like. You may not even notice most of the changes we did there. So, but let's do it from this part. So we can come here and add a margin Y, that's top to down. So we can have it as 2 pixels and have mx, that is for the x-axis, dash, you can have it as 5. So let's look at this. Now, if you look here, you will see what we have here. You see what we have here. So you may not notice the difference, but let me add more margin in the y-axis. Let's make it 5. So you now get to see it. So you can see from top to down, they have bigger space, but from left to right, it has a less amount of space. We can still reduce it just to make it mx2. Okay, so you can see that from right to left has a little space from here, but here has a larger space. I can still work with trying to reduce it to 3 so that you get to see how the space has been reduced. So this is what margin top and bottom, my and mx, does. Okay, so let us also look at how do we, if we don't want to work with top and down and then left and right together, but we specifically want to specify the particular place we are working with. So what we can do is we can use margin top for empty, then the value of the margin. We save it, we will see the margin top. So let's be sure we are working with, okay, we are working on text primary. So margin top. Okay, let's also add 5 to it so that you see margin top is 5, but below it is still by default what it used to be. So we can also have margin right and margin left. So to work with margin right and margin left, it's gonna be start and end. So we have margin start, which is MS. If you want to start from the left hand side, which is where by default this starts with. So to work with the margin left, we can use margin start for the start and specify the value of the margin. You can see the margin start. You can see it has given us 5 rem or 5 space here from the margin. Okay, so this is how we can work with margin and padding. So if we want to also add padding to the starting point of this background, we can also use PS just to specify margin right left, and that's going to take any value of your choice. So, and if you come here, you will see the padding from here. If you want to also add the padding to the left, it's going to be PE, which is the padding end. So this is end. The right hand side is end, while the left is start. So it's going to, if you're working with margin, it's going to be margin end. So let's have it as 5 as well. And if you save it, you can see this place has taken that margin. Okay. There are so many other things that we can do, like aligning our text. So let us align this particular text on the secondary. Let us align it to center. So to align, we can just say text dash center to make it center. So you can see this text has come to the center. Then we can also take it to left or right. So by default, it will be at the left. But if you must specify it, then it's going to be, so if you want it to be by the right, it's going to be text end. And you can see the text is now here. So just the way you have end is left, start is the beginning, then top and bottom, and so on. So we can also make it to start from the beginning. We can use text start, okay? And this is going to come here. You can see it. So this is how we can align our text. You can also use it to align anything if you want to. All right, so this is for the text. We also have so many other things that we can do with this. Okay, we can work with the, okay, let me have this with a background of green. So BG success, just to work with it. You can see we have green background there. And the text is info. I can let it to be light so that, oh sorry, so that it will take a white color. And let us work with the font weight or font size. So let's look at that. So to work with the font, we can use font weight. So this is font weight. So we can specify the font weight, or sorry, is going to be bold. So font weight, we can say bold. And this is going to be bold. You can see that it is bold. Okay, so we also have bolder and so on. So all these things can be found on the Bootstrap documentation. You don't have to cram them. So everything here are found under the Bootstrap documentation. Whichever thing that you are looking for, you can come here and look for it. Font weight, font weight. So anything you are looking for, you can find it here. You can see. So anything, you can see text, start, all these things. So these are the things that we are looking at. Okay, so let it not be like you are cramming it. So you can also have these font sizes. So this is font size. You can see customize your available font size by modifying. Okay, so you can do virtually anything. So bold, bolder, normal, light, italics, and so on. So we can see all the default this. Let me just go ahead to copy this thing. And let's take it to, let me delete some of these ones and put these ones up there. Let's take it there. You can see the bold, the bolder, the normal, and so on. So these are different uh, font weights. So this is normal, light, lighter, italics, and so on. And you can see how we were able to get to that from there. So you can just go to your getbootstrap.com, and from there you can just look at the documentation, try them out. There are no defined way of doing this, but it's just you having your having it, practicing it from time to time. It will give you edge over these things. Okay, so now let's look at containers. Okay, so to begin with a container, let's have a class called container. So we say dot container, enter. So now what I will do is, or first of all, let me not use this method. Let us work with container on this. So you can see what we have here. So let's do that here. So let's have a class on this, and the class should be a container. And you may not see what this has done, but let's add just a bg of dark and text light, just to make everything visible. Now you can look at this. You can see that by default it gave us a margin here and another margin here. So it gave us margin on the x-axis. And if we are reducing it from breakpoints, from the breakpoint, you can see that at a particular breakpoint on the mobile breakpoint, it doesn't have any margin at the left and right. But once it skips from the breakpoint of mobile to another larger device, which is a smaller device or medium devices, you will see that it gives it a default margin left and right. So you have to understand that Bootstrap is giving you a way of handling responsive events. Okay, so by default, Bootstrap has given you this responsive website, or what we can call mobile first design. So, but let's say we don't want to, we want to have another So we have another one which is called the container fluid. So I want us to see the difference between them. So this is going to be container dash fluid. So container fluid, you can see that container fluid for larger devices does not add any default margin on the x-axis. And even if you are pulling it to this, it takes the same thing with this on the mobile devices. So this is what a fluid container can do. But we can still customize all these things so that they meet up with what we actually desire. So to do that, let's say we want to change from the breakpoint, because this is mobile first design, which means that all the designs we are first done on mobile before they were implemented on other breakpoints. Other breakpoints are the desktop and the tablet. You can see on the tablet breakpoint, immediately you move to higher breakpoint, you can see these changes. But if you bring it to the mobile breakpoint, you can see this. So, and other breakpoints. So now we can still make this thing to have this, to close up all these things, to be fluid, or to cover these margins, maybe on other breakpoints like a larger screen. So to do that on a larger screen, we can just come to this container, and we want to make it on a large screen. Okay, so you can see that now it has taken the large screen, and from mobile to large screen, this remains the same. Okay, so this is how we can also um, uh, modify that. We can also set it to work only on extra large devices. So we can also do this. So now, if we do that, you can see that from mobile device, it is fill up. Then after the mobile device, you are now on the on the tablet. So on the tablet, you can see, you cannot see this margin, but immediately you skip from the large device to an extra large device, which are desktop computers. You can see that the size, this changes to this, it has this margin here. So this is also how you can make your containers responsive. So we have so many methods. We have the SM for small devices, the L for large devices, XL for extra large devices. So we can also see so many other ones. So the next one we are going to look at should be is the grid. So how do we work with grid on Bootstrap? So what are grids? Let's go to Bootstrap and let's look for grid. So the grid system, so look at it. So this component, you have column, column, column. So this is a grid. We will also use it very well. I will show you how to. You can see this is also a grid. So let's look at how we can use a grid. So to do that, we first of all, we make a row, so dot a class of row. So within the class row, we can have columns, a class with column dot code. So let's, inside this code, let's have anything like h1, and let's have text here. Okay, so this is just like having This is just like having a row, and within that row we have this column. Okay, so just to make everything easy to understand, let us have a background on a BG, which is a background. Let's have BG primary on them. Okay, let's go to the Bootstrap. You can see what we have here, and we can have so many other columns. So let's just copy this. Copy this. So these are columns that will be found on that row. So let's work with just 3 rows. So let's say text here 1, text here 2, just to differentiate them, and then text here 3, just to differentiate them. Now let's have, you can see we have BG, and you can see they are side by side to each other because we called it column. So, but we want to give it a space. So let's have row with margin X on the X axis, and let's give it just 3, so that on the X, sorry, we 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 misplaced this. So this MX, we will be adding it somewhere else, which is on the columns. So on the columns, I will be adding these things on the columns just to differentiate them from each other. Okay, so you can see what we have there. So this is the first column, and this is the second column, and this is the third column. Now, Bootstrap by default has 12 columns. So if we want to control the sizes of this column, you are going to specify it on the column. So let's say we want the first column to be bigger. So since Bootstrap has 12 columns, we can say code dash 6. Now the remaining sizes will be 6. So 6 will be shared by the remaining 2 columns. So I will now say 3 and 3. So now you can see how it looks. And because we don't have enough space, they are going to be stacked just beside themselves. So let's just change the space here so that, and you can see that this is not responsive in any way. It is not responsive in any way. But we can still make something out of it. Let us put it in a container just to make everything look nice. And okay. And then what we need to do is I am going to remove all the MX for now. So you can see that this place took a larger space, while the other ones, you can see, the other ones are sharing 6, while this one is taking up the whole other 6. So this is how we can make everything. We can also add some borders to it and so on, but I am not yet ready for that. So I will just add a little margin there. Margin, margin 1. margin 1, sorry, margin 1, margin 1. So you see that immediately you added a margin, it affected the arrangement of this thing. So, and then if you move to the mobile, it is no longer stacking properly. So what we can do now is to specify which devices is going to take this size. So we can just specify this on any place we want. So let us make it on the row or anywhere you want to do that. We can also add padding to each of the column depending on how you want it to be. So we can add it. So you can see that immediately I added padding on one of the columns. The padding was added by default to all other columns because they were meant to have equal sizes. But I can still do this from the row. So you can see immediately I do that, there is a difference from what I did here. So it gave us something at the top here. So this is all about container. There are so many that so much you can still learn from the Bootstrap documentation here. You can still go here, copy the codes and look at them. They will help you to understand how to work with grid on Bootstrap. It's very important. Okay, it's very important. So in my next class, we will be discussing other components and classes of Bootstrap, because this particular video is getting too long and I don't want it to get that long. In my next class, we will be discussing forms, components, and other ones that we need to do. At this place, I would call it a day. I would want you to make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and click on the bell notification so that anytime I release a video, you are going to receive a notification. If you follow up properly with what we are doing on this channel, believe me, by the end of the whole session, you are going to become a full stack web developer, because I'm going to take you from HTML down to Django and how to host your website so that by the end you become a web developer. I'll see you in my next video. For now, take care.